I book over 150 calls every single month through cold Twitter DM outreach. And the best part is that I did this without a complicated funnel, spending $0 on ads, and without getting millions of views on my content. What's messed up is that it's getting way harder every single day to book sales calls through these methods I just mentioned. Cold email reply rates are dropping, ads are 3 times as expensive as they used to be, and getting views on content is hard if you're not some course selling guru. And so while 90% of the market is dumping cash and time into dying lead gen solutions, I've developed a system to consistently book sales calls for myself and for my clients. So in the next couple minutes, I will share our exact 4-step system that books us over 150 sales calls every single month, so that you can steal it for yourself and start using it to fill your calendar within the next 30 to 60 days. So as you can see here, in the last 30 days, we've booked 250 total events, and this is on a down month actually, as you can see here. And given some of these are customer support calls, so that's why we titled this video 150 calls and not 250 calls, but 150 is really just us being conservative. And so you can just run the math on this. Let's just assume 150 sales calls. Let's say 75% of the people actually show up, and let's say you have a really bad 20% close rate. Just think about the amount of cash that you can collect from this many sales calls. Not only have we been able to make this work for us, as you just saw, but we've been able to do this across thousands of our users, like Rodrigo right here, that collected over $300,000 for his video production agency in just 6 months. And like this PR firm right here that booked over 120 sales calls and closed over $130,000 within just their first 30 days of running this cold Twitter DM outreach system. And so now you've seen it for yourself. This method actually makes my clients and myself a ton of money. All right, so now that you have proof that this works, let's dive into the first and by far the most misunderstood step of this entire strategy. So there's really 2 types of people when it comes to outreach. One of them reaches out to everyone and anyone that they can get their hands on, praying that they'll reply and buy whatever they're offering. It's the people that would send the same pitch to a software company owner than to a freaking fitness coach. And in reality, these types of people are the ones that say that cold outreach doesn't work. They send thousands of messages every single day and get no replies because their offer isn't built for whoever they're reaching out to. And then on the other side of the equation, we have people that spend tons of time researching their ideal audience and coming up with a solution that actually solves whatever they need. And then they filter out everyone else that doesn't fit their ICP or people that simply cannot afford their services. Maybe they don't send thousands of DMs like the first types of people do, but these guys book way more calls than the first guys. Why? Well, it's because the first step in outreach is knowing exactly who you're reaching out to and what they need at that specific point in time, and building an offer around that makes it super easy for people that don't know anything about you to say yes. And so you need to know where these guys hang out on Twitter, who they follow, what they have in their description, what types of content they're putting out, how often they're on Twitter, how often they're posting, are they just lurkers, are they liking stuff, are they commenting, what is it that they're doing exactly? And not only that, but you also want to figure out whether or not they're in a buying window. Maybe it's a seasonal thing where they're looking for email marketers specifically for Black Friday, so on and so forth. Point being that you need to know exactly what pain points your ideal customer has, where they hang out on Twitter, and whether or not they're in the buying window given the season that they're in. Now, if you have a bunch of clients already, you can literally just go and interview them and ask them all these questions. And if you don't have clients already, what you can do is you can upload sales call transcripts onto something like Claude or ChatGPT, and you can just ask it to give you all the insights to figure out what your prospects' pain points are based off of the conversations that you're having on these calls. And the truth is that you could just follow what I said step by step to the T and know exactly who your target audience is. But if you're only reaching out to 10 people a week, your odds of booking even 5 calls are pretty much none. And so the question becomes, how do I find enough of these guys to be able to send thousands every single week? And so that's what step 2 is. It's lead scraping. Let me explain. The fastest and by far the easiest way to reach out to as many of your perfect clients as possible is by filtering them into a big list that you can reach out to. And when done right, this could be the difference between an empty calendar and payments constantly coming in. Thing is, you're no longer desperate for a yes. If you get rejected, then cool. You know you still have a bunch of people that you know need your service just waiting for you to reach out to them. Now, if you want to go the conventional route, what I recommend you did is you figure out who the big authorities in your space are. In this case, we're going to build a list of e-com founders. And so what you want to do is you want to find someone like Sean Ecom. on Twitter, who is the founder of Ridge Wallet. So we would go in here and then I would just look at who he follows. And then at the same time, I would open up a Google Sheet. And as Sean is clearly an e-com store owner, right? He owns Ridge Wallet. I would just add him to our spreadsheet. And then I would just go down the list of people that he follows to figure out what other e-com founders are in here. So here we go, Jones Road Beauty. So I would add him to the list. Then I would just keep going. Founded a growth market. Okay, so this is an agency. So this guy sold his brand, Common Threads, your CFO's favorite agency. So this is an agency founder at Native. So Moise Ali built Native. There we go. Marketing, co-founder of True Earth. I think that's a D2C brand. CEO. Okay, there we go. This is another guy. CMO of Abi and co-founder. There we go. Carrying way too much ads, retention. So this is a SaaS guy actually. Co-founder, CEO, Simple Modern. Not sure if that's an e-com brand. Probably is. We have another one here. Ron, another Avi guy, and then your account. There we go. Professional internet. So let's see. Main caffeine fun. So this is definitely another e-com brand. Let's go in here, e-com brand. So now Heart and Soil. What is this? Start. Okay, yep. This is another guy for sure. Deal Brennan, domains. There we go. You get the point. And then in order to make this list big, because right now we're able to get like 10 guys that are literally perfect fits, because you go after the biggest guy and then you just look at who he follows. He's probably going to follow other people in this space. But then you can do the same exact thing with all these guys. Just look at who they follow and you're going to start finding a bunch of these other e-com founders. And you can do this virtually for every single niche. Now, if you're anything like me, you probably don't want to spend all day just going account by account and figuring out whether or not these guys are a good fit or not. And so what you can do is you can use AI software to just automate this whole thing and scrape thousands of qualified leads in literally just seconds. And so let me just show you how to do this really quickly. Now, I've tried a bunch of different tools out, but my favorite one, the one we're going to be using today, is Drippy.ai, and you can access it by hitting the first link down in the description to start a 7-day free trial. And so once you sign into Drippy, you're going to go to leads on the left-hand side of your screen, new lead source, lead scraper, and now we are just going to go back into Sean Frank's account. We're going to do Sean Ecom. We're going to add account source, paste him in here. We're going to take followers. Now we're just going to take the people that he follows. We're going to add the source. And what's really nice about this is that, as you can see here, if you just look at who he follows on Twitter, you only get around 75 people. And if you use the software, they can actually scrape all 1,500 people that he actually follows. So your lead list just end up being way bigger. You hit next. And then what I really like doing is adding bio content. So what I do is I would go in here and then I'd figure out what keywords these guys have in their bio. So they all have CEO. They all have like the C-suite keywords. So that's what I do. I just do CEO, I do founder. And also you can just get by with these two, but I would go back in here and then add as many keywords as you see fit to make sure that you get everyone that you would want to get. So now we're down to 474 people that are followed by Sean Ecom and have the word founder or CEO really. And so now just from one guy, you have almost 500 leads. And what's really nice about software like this is you can just add as many account sources as you'd like, and it's not going to duplicate any. And so this is by far the easiest way to do it. You just hit next, you give it a name, and then you are all good to go. You can hit save and then you're golden. And what's really nice about this is it literally will take you 3 seconds to get this all set up. You can just have it in the background scraping leads all day for you, and then you can decide to reach out to them whenever you want to. And this single-handedly is how we were able to just book as many calls as I showed you at the beginning and get our clients the results that you also saw at the beginning. And so now you know exactly who to target and how to reach them. And so this next step is actually by far the most important when it comes to DM outreach. And that's crafting the right outreach script. Because if you don't get replies and your DM doesn't catch anyone's attention, then nothing else matters. And so how do you create a DM that number 1 stands out and number 2 is personalized to each and every single prospect that you reach out to? Well, there's actually 4 elements that go into each and every single cold DM script that I ever write. And so how I like to look at it is you have the intro, you have the intro line, you have the body, and then you have the call to actions. With the intro, you really just want to be saying their first name. With the intro line, this is where it gets interesting with personalization, okay? And if you use something like Drippy.ai, you can literally just prompt it like you would ChatGPT to look into their website, look into their Twitter profile, and then come up with a personalized line that's specific to that person, okay? And then that's how you can really just send out very personalized DMs to everyone at scale. And then we have the body, okay? This is where you're either doing some sort of case study, social proof, or a risk reversal if you don't have one of the first two. And then for CTAs, it really just depends on what it is that you are offering, depends on the offer, the big overarching offer that you're running. But I like making these very soft calls to action. As you can see here, I have, hey, can I send over more info? Would this be worth the chat? Interested? Question mark. Can I share the ideas I had on how this can help your team? No need for a call just yet. I can send over a quick Loom video if interested, right? And so these are the 4 things that you need to look into. Now, if you want this specific document, all you need to do is after you've signed up to Drippy using the first link down below the description, you can go to the Learning Center, then you can go to script writing, and you can access it by hitting the resources button down here, okay? And this document is honestly super cool. It took me a bunch of time to put together. You have different frameworks for different types of offers. So here we have a specific result plus risk reversal offer, then we have a peon performance offer, then we have a one-time setup offer, and then we have free lead magnet offers. And these are built just based off of all the data that we have, just based off of what's worked well in the past. And if you run these and you add AI personalization using something like Drippy, you pretty much guarantee that you're gonna beat your competition whenever it comes to Twitter DM outreach. And honestly, what surprises me the most is that close to 90% of people will spend all their time crafting the perfect DM, then they'll send it, and then they don't automatically get a reply, and they'll assume that they don't have the right targeting or that that specific DM script isn't working until they quit. When in reality, there's something super important that they're missing. Let me explain. So when a prospect first sees your DM, the first thing they'll do is they'll check your profile to see if you're actually legit. And if your profile doesn't convince them and doesn't make you look like an authority, then you will not get replies. And that's why a perfectly written DM simply just won't be enough if everything else isn't in line. And so this is the foundation of a system that, when executed correctly, can book you over 150 meetings every single month. So let me just quickly show you what I focus on whenever I'm thinking about how to set up a new profile. And I've actually put it all together into this checklist right here to make it super easy for you to just go step by step and get all this done. So number one is just having a very clean profile picture, and then you want to have a very clean cover photo. You want a clean username. You don't want any crazy numbers, no PlayStation username, no gamer tags. You want a clean name. You can use an SEO optimized name. So what this looks like is people will have something right next to their name. So for example, if I wanted to do this, I would say Alex, and then I'd say the Twitter DM guy, for example, or something like that. Then you always want to have more followers than the people you're following. This is kind of just so you have a little bit more credibility. Number 2, then you also want to make sure that your bio tells people what you do. Again, if someone can't tell what you do in 5 seconds, you're not going to get as many replies as you should be, because again, you need to look like an authority very quickly. Links to your websites, you also want your websites to look good. Link to YouTube, this is a super underrated way to create instant credibility. People will click YouTube links because number one, they trust them, and they'll check to see if you have good high quality videos on your channel. Pin post, this is super key. You can add MP4 files as your pin post and they will autoplay. So I highly recommend people do that. You need content. Like, yes, you need content. If you don't have a bunch of content, the easiest way to go around it is by having a really good pinned post. Then something that a lot of people forget but is vital whenever you're doing Twitter outreach is being verified. Okay, just spend the $8. It's totally worth it. Everyone has to do it. And at the end, you just want to double make sure that you look like a real human being, because if you don't, you're not going to get any replies. And so that's the exact system that I use to book over 150 sales calls every single month. And I can pretty much guarantee that if you apply something that you learned today into your process, you'll book more sales calls. Now, let me be honest and clear about one thing. Doing this manually simply takes too much time. You need to write scripts, you need to personalize every single one of your scripts, constantly checking if people have replied. Most people will just end up burning out and quitting before they even make any money. And so that's why you need a software that will automate 90% of this entire process without losing out on quality. And so that's exactly what I do to actually book all these calls. I use software. Software is called Drippy.ai. First link down below in the description will get you a 7-day free trial. It'll scrape leads for you automatically. It'll personalize each and every single message so that they don't land in spam. And it'll allow you to send thousands of messages every single day. So if you're serious about leveling up your cold outreach game and booking over 150 calls every single month, I'd probably check it out. And that's it. I'll leave you with this video on screen that walks through what Alex Hormozi has to say about cold Twitter outreach. Appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you there.